So, hello again. Evelyn Downey, you were responsible for all this stuff growing legs, um, because it all really began just as me explaining a piece from the book Around the Bory log to my friends John and Rhonda in Australia, and to illustrate it, I kind of recorded it, and then I put it on Facebook, and there it took legs. So this particular piece, Evelyn, thank you. Also dedicated in particular to John and Rhonda in Australia, two of the best friends any man could ever have. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Thank you for my 70th birthday party, which was just a joy and a wonder. And also, of course, to the best buddy in the world, my closest friend Ray, who lives in Middleton in County Cork, and to his trusty little companion here, Mitzi. There, I hope you can see her. She's an old girl now. She's been part of our lives for 13 years, but my goodness, she's just given so much love and continues to do so, even though she's getting a bit old and frail. So that's the dedications. Right, going back to the original source here, to the Around the Bory log, written by Monsignor Patrick Hartigan, who writes under the name of John O'Brien, and his fictitious family, the O'Briens, and there are 10 kids in the O'Brien family. So is it any wonder one of them became a priest? And they live in this community of Irish settlers in the shade of the Sugarloaf Mountain in New South Wales. And you have the Caseys, who seemed like good crack, the Murphys, the Careys, who, they were a bit above themselves. People didn't like them all that much. And of course, the whole centre of the community was the church. And the big event of the week was Sunday Mass. And the O'Briens used to go there on this contraption that they called the Old Mass Shandrydan. You can look up Shandrydan in the dictionary. I thought it was a slang word, but no, it actually does exist. And just one thing. Just by way of apology to my feminist friends, he always tends to talk about the little Irish mother, so don't be offended. I mean, that's just the way things were at the time, okay? So, I can see it in my dreaming o'er a gap of 30 years, and the rattle of its boxes still is music in my ears. With a bow to family vanity, it rises from the past as the pride of the selection, where my humble youth was cast. It was fashioned in a nightmare by some wandering genius, and it wasn't quite a wagon, and it wasn't quite a bus. 'Twas an old four-wheeled gazebo that was something in between, and the wheels were painted yellow, and the rest was painted green. It would waken lively interest in the antiquarian, and was known to all the country as the Old Mass Shandrydan. It did duty on a weekday in a dozen ways and more, and it seemed just made to order for whatever it was wanted for. It would cart the chaff to market, carry wood and hay in turn, and the neighbours in rotation used to cadge the old concern. But the Sundays we were due for Mass would cancel every loan, for the little Irish mother then would claim it for her own. She inspected it the day before, and criticised it too, and the 10 of us were set to work to make it look like new. There was one to every yellow wheel, one to every spoke, one to nail a piece of hardwood on the part them Careys broke. Another from the floor of it the chips and straw would rake, while the dad went searching rubbish heaps for old boots for the break. So we rubbed and scrubbed and hammered up and beat the rat-a-tan till it stood in all its glory as the Old Mass Shandrydan. When at last, with velvet sandals shod, the holy morning crept through the mists above the Sugarloaf, that silent vigil kept o'er a little old slab dwelling which the years have brushed away, you would hear the little mother stirring round before the day, rousing sleepy heads from blankets, washing faces, doing hair, scolding, coaxing, bustling, breathless, in a hurry everywhere. Half the night before she laboured, and we'd hear her come and go with the Sunday suits of reach-me-downs to place them in a row. There was this to patch and that to darn and something else to mend. She would see to every single thing before her work would end. To the dresses and the pinnies, the memory she had. There were lace-up boots for Morgan and a clean white shirt for Dad, and the hubbub and the murder that the household used to make when she had us tumbled out of bed and painfully awake. Here a voice in anguish lifted to announce a button gone, someone calling from the back room, "Ma'am, what socks will I put on?" While himself was like a Bolshevik athirst for human blood, shouting "Mother!" as he wrestled with a fractious collar stud. But she kept the tumult under till she had us spick and span, packed like pickles in a bottle, in the old Mass Shandrydan. We had 10 good miles to drive to Mass, and Mass was sharp at 8, but we'd never hear the end of it if something kept us late. So we started ere the morning hung its bunting in the sky, and the kookaburras chortled as we rumbled slowly by. For the frost was on the barley, and the rime was on the trees, and our little faces smarted with the whiplash of the breeze. Still we watched the branches redden to the first kiss of the sun, and we counted all the cartwheels that the busy spiders spun. Then the magpies sang to greet us, and our little hearts began to forget that we were shivering in the old Mass Shandrydan. So the old contraption lumbered, safely towed, as Dad knew how, by a pair of hefty elephants promoted from the plough. And it rattled like a sawmill, and it thundered like a dray. Faith, you'd hear the circus coming 6 miles away. All along the road the neighbours used to take the time from us, for they never made a start until they heard our omnibus. Then a shrill soprano shouted, "Put the horses in the van! Them's the Sugarloaf's O'Briens in the old Mass Shandrydan." We were first to Carey's Crossing, first to reach Maloney's Mill, but the opposition caught us as we laboured up the hill. Then the air became electric as they tried to pass us by, for himself, for family reasons, which I needn't specify, kept the road in deadly earnest, and would never seem to hear the abuse of the procession that was gathering in the rear. Oh, they whistled and they shouted till their feelings overflowed, but the old man in the dreadnought was the master of the road. It was suicide to bump it, and the horses wouldn't shy, so he trundled on before them with a bad look in his eye. Then, as suddenly the whistling and the bantering shouting ceased, and a solemn hush denoted the arrival of the priest, with a fine, good Catholic thunder, "You're a shame upon you, man. Pull one side there, Pat O'Brien, with your old Mass Shandrydan." Pull. Me daddy pulled the town down when his reverence hove in sight, pulled his hat off with the left hand and the pipe out with the right, pulled his family in the gutter, pulled the horses off their feet, and a shower of small O'Briens went skedaddling from the seat. Then they rattled loudly past us, and a wild stampede began, for they all had family reasons to outpace the other man. There were buggies, traps, and turnouts there of every shape and rig. There were Murphys in a spring cart, and the Caseys in a gig. There were barns, ponies pounding twixt a gallop and a trot. Faith, the Careys, with a pacing mare, went sailing past the lot. Oh, we had it in for Carey, and our disrespect increased at the cheek of "them there Careys who would try to beat the priest." Nah, we wouldn't stoop to things like that. We'd act the gentleman, 1/2 mile behind the others, in the old Mass Shandrydan. It's a long way back I'm gazing, and the stage has changed since then. Just an echo finds me sometimes, bringing back the scene again. Ah, the heart beats slower measured than it used to beat, alas, when a little Irish mother dressed us all in time for Mass. I have lounged in fast expresses, I have travelled first saloon, I have heard the haunting music that the winds and waters croon, I have seen the road careering from a whirring motor car, where the Careys couldn't pass us, or our sense of fitness jar. But the world is somehow smaller, somehow less enchanting than when I saw it o'er the tailboard of the old Mass Shandrydan. So just to finish, a little bonus piece from Percy French. Who else? I'm simply surrounded by lovers, since Da made his fortune in land. They're coming in crowds like the plovers to ask for my hand. There's clerks and policemen And teachers, some sandy, some black as a crow. Ma says you get used to the creatures, but I dunno. The convent is in a commotion to think of me taking a spouse, and I wonder I hadn't the notion of taking the vows. 'Tis a beautiful life, and a quiet, and it keeps you from going below. As a girl, I thought I might try it. But I dunno. I've only myself to look after, and marriage, it fills me with fears. I think I'd have less of the laughter and more of the tears. I'll not be a slave like me mother, with 6 of us all in a row. Even one little baby's a bother, but I dunno. There's a lad who has taken my fancy. Och, I know he's a bit of a lem, and though marriage is a terrible chancy, I chance it with him. He's coming tonight. How I tingle from the tip of me head to me toes. I'll tell him I'd rather live single. But I dunno. So there you are. Look, I'm going to give this a rest for a while. Thank you to all the people who asked me to carry on. But there's an old showbiz maxim, always leave them wanting more. I may come back to this sometime. You never know. All the people who said nice things to me, all the positive feedback. Thank you. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Stay well. Bye for the moment. God bless.